Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to take a look at another brand new Mattel figure. This is one of the newest variants of the Savage Strike Velociraptor, the jumping version that has just recently started to hit stores, mostly Target, I would say. I don't think I've heard of anyone finding it actually at Walmart or anything, but it's been hitting Targets across the United States. This is obviously the new red and green variant, and I actually think it looks pretty cool. Initially, I kind of just blew it off as, it's just another repaint of another Velociraptor. We've had so many from Mattel already, but actually here in person, I must say it looks a lot nicer than I expected it to, and I really love that the paint goes so far out onto the tail as far as that greenish coloration. Unfortunately, there isn't enough paint on the face, if you ask me, but other than that, it looks really quite nice here at first glance. As far as the packaging goes, again, it's pretty much your standard Camp Cretaceous packaging with the title of the Velociraptor down here, Toro, the kids, all that fun stuff. And then on the back, we have kind of an example of the jumping feature of the Velociraptor, as well as that kind of booklet right there. And then some of the other Savage Strikes that are in this line, which is this one and this one. These two guys have already been out, the Monolithosaurus and Stygimoloch, but the Velociraptor there is also new. That's another new repaint of a previously released Savage Strike Velociraptor. But the figure looks really cool, so let's go ahead, break it out of the packaging, and go straight to the closer look right now. So as far as this figure goes, we have already reviewed the Sculpt plenty of times so far, as this one has been out for quite some time, for a very long time, probably since the beginning of the Mattel Jurassic World line, but again, it's a really beautiful figure, but we don't really need to go over the sculpt. We only really need to take a look at what's new with the figure, and that is primarily the paint scheme. Actually, I think that's the only thing that I can see as far as this figure goes that would be new. So as far as the head sculpt goes, we have a really nice reddish coloration for the face, and then a beautifully painted eye with a yellow coloration and a black pupil. I'm really psyched that they actually added in the black pupil as opposed to just kind of giving it that reddish coloration that you see as far as like the primary body color goes, because they do often do that. This time they chose to actually give it a black pupil, and I always think it looks so much better when they actually do that. You also see that the lower jaw is a whitish coloration. Of course, the figure does have an articulated jaw, and it works beautifully, very smoothly like always. You can see the inside of the mouth sports a nice, very realistic coloration in there, and you can even see the upper side of the inside of the mouth is painted, which is a huge plus if you ask me. However, I must say I'm quite shocked to again see that it doesn't really have much of a glossy look to the paint on the inside of the mouth, and Mattel has been including kind of that gloss coat on the inside of the mouth since the beginning of the Jurassic World line, so I'm quite shocked to actually see that it hasn't been included on a number of figures recently, but you can see that the teeth are painted with kind of an off-white, and for the most part they look really quite nice, quite precise as far as the paint application goes, and that's pretty much something that's quite common as far as the Mattel line goes. You can see that kind of off-white that we have for the lower jaw, almost like a slight shade of a really, really light gray. Also continues to run down the course of the body. You can see it run down the neck, down into the chest, all the way to the underside, and then ends right here. It tapers off, unfortunately. And since we're down here, here is the Jurassic Facts app if you would like to add this to your collection. But then as far as the rest of the figure goes, we have a really cool looking greenish coloration up here, and it starts to kind of stripe and design all over the raptor, and I think it actually plays off of that reddish coloration really well. Like the two colors mesh quite beautifully together, and I think it's a really neat flashy look for a Velociraptor as far as this color scheme goes, and there is just a ton of that green present on the figure. As we move out the length of the figure, you can see it runs down into the thighs of the raptor as well, and then leads almost the entire way out the tail, which I absolutely love. I think the figure looks so much better with paint that actually runs all that far, all the way out onto the tail. Not the entire way, as you can see it tapers off to a red coloration toward the end of the tail, but for the most part we do get the majority of the tail that has red and green paint there. Would have been pretty cool to see the light off-white coloration actually run out the length of the tail, but again, it actually looks really nice the way they've done it right here, and you can also see the nails are painted. They've been given kind of a darker gray coloration, and they do also include a gloss coat. I actually don't see the speckles that we do often see. Like this one would probably have like black speckles, and I don't really see them here on this figure, so that's another little bit of a shocking aspect to the figure. But again, I honestly think it looks beautiful, and I'm actually a pretty big fan of this Raptor release. Now, as far as your articulation goes, it's your standard articulation as far as this Raptor goes. So you do have that really beautiful neck articulation, which is on a swivel, so you can really pose that head of the Raptor in many different ways. And this is one area that I've been in love with as far as the Mattel line goes from the very start. I absolutely love the neck articulation whenever they include this on their figures, and I think it allows for some really cool posability on their dinosaurs. And every time you move the head, again, the seam is almost non-existent. Like, you really don't take note to it all that well, and it looks really realistic and smooth no matter where you put the head as far as that articulation goes in the neck. And you also, of course, have the articulated jaw, which we have already pointed out. You have articulation in the arms, forward and back, and out away from the body. Same goes for both sides. And then you have the articulation of the legs, because that is the action feature. They do move together. They don't move independently. And that's about it. There is no articulation in the tail. This is still one of the older Mattel Raptors as far as the sculpt goes. They haven't updated it with a swivel tail or anything like that. As far as the actual action feature goes, to activate that, you have to kind of put the Raptor on its heels and press it down like this, and then it just jumps like a lunatic. You can see it actually works really quite well. Definitely can jump quite nicely. That is a pretty cool action feature, and something that, as far as a Jurassic Park Velociraptor goes, is a really nice touch. As far as a size on our Raptor goes, for a length, you are looking at right around the 8-inch range, or about 20 centimeters. And then for a height, the tail is obviously higher than the head, but we'll go to the head first. It's 3 inches, or about 7.5 centimeters. Yeah, right around there, closing in on 8 centimeters. And then about 4.25 inches, or 11 centimeters to the tip of the tail. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Golovosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line, next to our newest version of the Savage Strike Velociraptor from Mattel. And you should definitely have a good idea that it's pretty much your standard size as far as a Raptor goes. If you happen to already have this sculpt, then you know for sure of the size already. Nothing has changed as far as the sculpt in general goes, only the paint job. So if you don't have this, it's pretty much the same size as any other Mattel Raptor. And if you don't have any Mattel Raptors at all, then hopefully these guys here will help you out. So this newest variant of the Jumping Savage Strike Velociraptor from Mattel is, although it's just another repaint, a really, really cool release. I actually am a big fan of this version of the Raptor. Initially, when I had seen the prototype images, I wasn't all that sold on it. I didn't think it looked that great, but something that continuously seems to happen as far as the Mattel line goes happened yet again, and that is when I saw the figure in hand, in person. I pretty much instantly fell in love with it and realized that it's actually way more appealing than I had given it credit for initially. I think the paint scheme is really beautiful, and the way that that green and reddish coloration plays off of each other just looks super striking, but at the same time it somehow does look quite natural, and I think the actual application of the paint as well looks really nice and smooth all over the figure. And again, I've mentioned numerous times already in this review, I love that that green and red runs all the way out onto the tail. I mean, the red is to be expected, being that it's the primary body color, but the fact that that green runs so far out onto the tail, which is something you don't often see from Mattel, is really, really exciting. We are halfway to having the nails painted on this, of course. As you can see that the nails on the feet are painted, but unfortunately not in the hand area, which is, again, something we've seen countless times already with this Raptor, but it is always exciting to see any type of toenail paint application on any Mattel figure, even if we have seen it at least on the Raptors previously. The sculpt itself is really quite beautiful, again sporting a kind of a Jurassic Park 3 look with that crest-like area on the head sculpt of the Velociraptor. This paint scheme itself, I don't believe, has actually made an appearance in any type of a Jurassic Park or Jurassic World product prior, so the paint scheme has nothing to do with a JP3 sculpt. It's just that they've kind of reused this sculpt numerous times. We've already even had a Velociraptor blue with this sculpt, and obviously blue does not have that crest area. But again, the figure is quite awesome. The paint scheme is really beautiful. The sculpt is beautiful. The action feature is really quite nice as well. Lots of articulation, and you have yourself a win as far as this newest version of the Mattel Savage Strike Raptor goes. I will include a link in the description to Target, where I actually purchased mine. It does tend to go into stock and out of stock on there from time to time, so make sure you check the description, buy it on there. Otherwise, make sure you buy it in store at Target if you can find one, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.